I think for me, SWOT analysis really comes into play as clients are growing, stepping into, in this case, call it hospitality and restaurants, stepping into maybe that second, third, fourth location.
Right.
Really getting past that original startup phase, going through what they're good at, what they're not good at, how they can grow, some of the opportunities that they can really thrive and keep growing with. So I think really that's probably a very good starting point for that.
Any new location definitely would require a SWOT analysis. Also, any big change to the business. So in the hospitality business, if you're just purely a restaurant and you want to get into catering, or you want to get into event management and event hosting, any type of drastic change in your business would require a SWOT analysis, because you've got to study your market. You've got to study what's out there that could be a barrier to entry into that new business line, because it boils down to the 4 big factors that affect any expansion. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? You know, any new market segment, you've got to identify those 4 things before you can really gauge whether or not you're going to be successful.
Right. And I think it really helps owners pull back the curtain, if you will, because a lot of owners, they tend to see the good all the time. And I think when you look at your opportunities and your threats and your weaknesses, strengths, you're looking at both ends of the coin, if you will, and you're really being forced to view some of the things that might be challenges that you're going to be faced up against early.
Well, and there's opportunities to pat yourself on the back. You know, acknowledge what you do well, acknowledge the opportunities that you have in front of to use those strengths to grow. But just don't forget that there's going to be threats to every opportunity, and there's going to be a weakness to every strength.
Good deal. I think going through the SWOT analysis in a little more detail would probably be helpful. And I know this industry, obviously many different businesses involved with it, but really just thinking about hotels or restaurants, for example, going to the strengths first, I think it's really helpful for businesses to understand what they're good at, what they can continue to improve upon, and what is going to drive them forward. And I think many of these, one that I've commonly seen is just really the diversified revenue stream. Really going into catering, is that a good option? Do we need to sell more merchandise? Is that a good option? Do we need to consider franchising? So I think really going through these scenarios is helpful with the strength standpoint, and a diversified revenue stream tends to help and tends to be where a lot of people end up starting.
I also think location, that can be a strength or a weakness. The community I live in, we're very loyal to our local restaurants, and their location is their location is a very big strength for them. But that also can be a weakness. If you're in the wrong spot, you can have really struggle to grow and draw and tap into the market share that you're looking for.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. Is it really strengths can be weaknesses and weaknesses can be strengths, really based on how you look at it. And I know a lot of restaurants, just as you mentioned, they have brand loyalty and customers that continue to come back. And that tends to be a very good, strong strength for a lot of these individuals if they're doing great work and if they're putting out great product. And starting that second location tends to be helpful because the brand loyalty is already there, the customer base is already there, and it really just solidifies their place in the community. Then I think another strength to focus on that you hit on earlier is the skilled labor. This industry, as far as thinking of like a chef or, you know, some of the high-end individuals, having access to that and the ability to train those individuals tends to be a strength as well.
And you need to have the high-end product that goes with that. One of my favorite restaurants from when I was in college was an Italian restaurant that used an Italian specialty food service provider that was a little higher cost, but it brought in a higher product, and the customer base was willing to pay for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think having that high-end product really separates yourself from those in the market. And, you know, you think of the common Italian places or whatever it may be. And I know that one of my favorite is where they're really pressing out fresh noodles and fresh food and fresh ingredients. And I know as a customer, I don't mind paying for that because it goes back to that experience and something I'm not going to do at home, so to speak.
As far as weaknesses, talking about food, talking about sourcing ingredients is inflation. It is inflation. And how can we as an industry manage our food costs, manage our cost of labor, and find the right price to keep the doors open?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And really thinking of the food, it varies so much, and that's where it becomes so challenging because from provider to provider or supplier or vendor, the food costs can be so different. The quality comes right there with it. And I think fortunately this industry, for the most part, unless they have goods imported, they've got some shielding, I guess, if you will, from the tariffs that many of these have been experiencing. So the key, I guess, is locally grown, fresh products as much as you can, and try to control the cost. And obviously labor, that's a big one as well, because you can have too many people on hand or not enough people on hand, and the customer feels both directions of that. So being able to nail that specifically can be a big challenge.
There's a restaurant here in our community that will constantly have a wait based on the number of servers they have, not the number of tables that may be empty. I always respect that, because they want to bring the same level of service, and if I have to wait 15 extra minutes to make sure I get good service as opposed to sitting down and getting bad service, I think it's a good technique to use.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, and it kind of builds up probably a little bit of hype. I mean, you see people waiting, and you know the food's going to be great, and there might be a line out the door, but you know you're going to have a good experience, and that's always something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I think the next step, naturally, in the SWOT analysis, we hit strengths, weaknesses, now hitting opportunities. Going back to some of the technology you mentioned, I know that technology has really taken off in this industry, and thinking of how I can order food from home, or if I go to a restaurant, there are QR codes on the table, and just so many great things coming out. Have you seen any of that, or seen some of your customers have some of that as well, maybe?
I've seen a lot of use of technology. I've seen a lot of, kiosk apps. Also seen a lot of use of third parties. Whereas when we would order a pizza as a kid, a driver from the pizza restaurant would bring you your pizza. Now they don't use that anymore. They get to use third-party providers to do the actual deliveries. That saves us on labor cost. It saves us on recruiting cost. Also takes that task out of our hands.
Yeah, and we were just kind of thinking through some of that as well. The third-party provider, the kiosk is something that we experienced. We were going through the airport this past week, and so many vendors have so many kiosks now. It's really unreal. There were things from cupcakes in kiosks to pasta in kiosks to things for your animals. I mean, just so many items to pick from, but you don't have to have the storefront. You nailed it. You don't have the labor, you don't have the capital to go with it, but the product's still there. And as long as they can maintain the quality of the product, it's obviously an easy option and great for the consumer to grab something on the go. Thinking of the accounting softwares, obviously we see a lot of that on the back end, and what they can do is amazing with AI now, and pull out data and really analyze that data in a matter of seconds. Something that would have taken hours before. It's really helping a lot of these restaurant owners understand their cost, understand the key performance indicators, really control some of that. So I think that's really exciting stuff that we're seeing really within this industry on our end, is having access to that AI and be able to leverage some of that in our conversations.
Well, and then do business owners have they really studied their opportunities? When you talk about things like catering, when you're talking about could I open a brewing operation, when you talk about do I have a big enough kitchen even to maximize the space that I have? Or have we really studied the opportunities that are out there for me to grow this business? You talk a lot about opening other locations, but sometimes within your four walls, there are opportunities that exist that you may not be aware of. And it can be as simple as bulk food or catering operations or party platters, or just your kitchen may be inadequate for the restaurant space that you have.
Yep. And I think going to the industry as a whole, opportunity is the growth within this industry. I think I saw some numbers the other day that this industry is, I think it's 11 or 12 trillion dollars as a whole. And that's about 10% of our GDP in the country, which is fantastic. So I think the knowledge within this industry is an opportunity. The growth in this industry is an opportunity. And from what I've seen, a lot of the owners are really friendly with each other. They want to communicate with each other. They want to help each other out. And it's just a very open group, if you will, to support each other. So fantastic opportunity there. I think the last phase of this, we've hit SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, now threat, hitting on some of that. The first thing that comes to mind for me is the intense competition. Just as we mentioned, we've got so many players in this arena, thinking of both hospitality, hotels, restaurants, whatever it may be. We all experience those items. We've all frequented those locations, and that really leads to strong competition. So I think stepping into this industry, you've got to always be aware of that. You've got to really try to avoid some of the challenges that come with that, and then try to separate yourself and do your own dance, if you will, to improve upon some of that.
Well, and when competition gets in your arena, don't be scared of it. You know, a lot of times restaurants, a cluster of restaurants can complement each other because they offer different types of cuisine. They offer different services. They're just different. And so try to work with your competition to complement each other, and you will all be successful.
Yeah, and I think the word I've heard a lot of this year from some people on the Gulf Coast is cooperation. So you've got the cooperate, you've got the competition. So that's a great example of that.
Yeah. Well, and then the obvious other threat is source of labor.
Yeah.
You know, are you getting quality people to serve your customers?
Yeah, that is huge. And this industry probably experiences more turnover than a lot of industries. So I think being aware of that and always having a pool or a connection or, great talent coming in, and that really leads to, once you get that talent, keeping that talent, building them up, training them properly, paying them properly, whatever it may be. Really just making sure that they're well taken care of so that they're happy working, the customer feels that they're, it's a win-win scenario for sure. And I think one thing that comes to mind too is with the use of technology that we were talking about earlier, you've naturally got data breach issues, possible cyber attack issues. That's a big item. Have you seen any of that or heard of any of that? Naturally, we've ran across it, I'm sure, at some point.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day there's a massive amount of personal data. The credit card numbers and the personal habits of your customers are in your systems, and you've got to protect those systems in order to protect your customer base, or you will lose them quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thinking of all the customers that these businesses touch, the volume's there. So having that security in place is something that's important. It's going to become more important as technology becomes usable by more of these businesses. Artificial intelligence keeps growing as well. And I think the last threat that really comes to my mind, as you mentioned earlier, is the consumer preferences, the change of that. With the use of social media, it seems like stuff is really just changing by the day. What people prefer is changing by the day. So I think it's really interesting and a challenge for businesses to stay on top of that.
Well, and with technology, if you think about it, you've got your customer information, you've got your employee information, you've got your inventory, you've got your order management system. Everything that makes your business efficient is in that POS system. And if that gets compromised, it's not just information loss, it's loss of business and loss of functionality for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and that's huge. And a lot of these businesses may not have the cash flow or the reserves or the capital to be able to withstand that. So that is a great point. Being able to stay on top of that, stay ahead of it, really will save some heartache on the back end. Yeah, well. So I think as companies move forward with this information that we talked about today, to really bring it together is a challenge in and of itself. But I think it's important to get many team members around the table. You don't want just your general manager there. You don't want just your owner there. You want really top to bottom there, putting in input, talking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because they're probably going to be different to each person based on the level that they're working with. So I think that's helpful. And once that's compiled, it really gives the owner an opportunity to analyze it, to review it. And I think it's really helpful too to bring on a professional that's familiar with this, that can really help walk them through some of that and help them understand in a little more detail what some of those challenges or strengths may be.
And this should be a part of a strategic planning process in your business, at least annually, or not just every time you want to do something new. Look at your business as a whole. Look at your marketplace. Look at everything around you that's changing and update this analysis. Having the lower level people involved, because not only make sure you capture everything, but it also just captures every perspective, because they see a lot of threats on the floor that you don't see in the general manager's office.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think being able to have all that insight is extremely valuable. And like you said, review it monthly, quarterly, twice a year. Really just something more often than a year, I think, is very important, because the world we live in now changes very quickly.
Especially in the restaurant space.
Yes.